Once upon a time, in a peaceful meadow surrounded by tall trees and blooming flowers, lived a rabbit named Rex. Rex was known throughout the forest as the fastest animal around. He loved to race, and with his long legs and quick feet, he always won. Rex was so proud of his speed that he often boasted to the other animals about how no one could beat him. "I'm the fastest animal in the whole forest," Rex would say, hopping around to show off. "No one can outrun me, not even close." Most of the animals would nod and agree. After all, Rex really was fast, but one animal, a wise old turtle named Toby, would simply smile whenever he heard Rex bragging. One sunny morning, as Rex was hopping around and showing off again, Toby finally spoke up. "You know, Rex," said Toby, "speed isn't everything. Sometimes being slow and steady can win the race." Rex the rabbit laughed so hard he nearly fell over. "You? Win a race against me? That's the funniest thing I've heard all week, Toby. You're so slow. I'd finish the race before you even took your first step." Toby the turtle chuckled softly and said, "Perhaps. But would you care to test that theory? How about a race between the two of us?" The other animals who had gathered to listen gasped in surprise. A race between Rex, the fastest creature in the forest, and Toby, the slowest? It sounded impossible, but they were also curious to see what would happen. "Are you serious?" Rex asked. "Absolutely," Toby replied. "Let's have a race. We can start at the old oak tree and finish at the riverbank." Rex thought this was the silliest idea he had ever heard, but he loved the idea of winning so easily. He agreed to the race and said, "All right, Toby, we'll race tomorrow morning, but don't be too disappointed when I leave you far behind." The next day, all the animals of the forest gathered to watch the race. Birds perched on branches, squirrels sat in the trees, and even the deer came to see what would surely be a spectacular event. They lined up at the starting point, the big old oak tree, and waited for the race to begin. Rex the rabbit was bouncing with excitement, eager to show everyone just how fast he was. Toby the turtle, on the other hand, stood calmly at the starting line, his short legs and thick shell making him look even slower next to Rex. "Are you ready, Slowpoke?" Rex teased. Toby nodded and smiled. "I'm ready." With a loud cheer from the animals, the race began. As soon as the race started, Rex shot off like a bolt of lightning. He dashed ahead so quickly that in a matter of seconds he was far out of sight. Toby, however, moved at his own pace. One step at a time, slow but steady, he made his way. Rex the rabbit was so fast that he reached the halfway point in no time. He glanced back and, of course, couldn't even see Toby the turtle anywhere behind him. Rex grinned and thought to himself, "This is going to be the easiest race I've ever won." Feeling very confident, Rex decided to stop and rest for a while. "I've got plenty of time," he said to himself. "Toby is so slow I can take a nice nap and still beat him." So, Rex found a soft patch of grass under a shady tree and lay down. Soon, he was fast asleep, dreaming about how the other animals would cheer for him when he crossed the finish line. Meanwhile, Toby continued his journey at his steady pace. He didn't stop, he didn't hurry, and he didn't worry about how far ahead Rex was. Toby knew that if he just kept moving, step by step, he would eventually make it to the finish line. Hours passed, and Rex the rabbit was still asleep under the tree. By the time he finally woke up, the sun was lower in the sky, and he yawned and stretched. "That was a nice nap," Rex said, blinking his eyes. He stood up and looked around. "I guess I should finish the race now." Rex bounced off down the path, sure that Toby the turtle was still miles behind. But as Rex rounded the final bend, something shocking came into view. There, just ahead, was Toby. The slow and steady turtle was only a few steps away from the finish line. Rex's eyes widened in disbelief. "How did this happen?" he exclaimed. With all his strength, Rex sprinted toward the finish line as fast as he could. The other animals gasped as they saw Rex speeding toward Toby. But just as Rex was about to catch up, Toby took his final step and crossed the finish line. The forest erupted in cheers. Toby had won the race. Rex the rabbit skidded to a halt, panting and exhausted. He couldn't believe it. How had he lost to a turtle? Toby the turtle smiled and turned to Rex. "You see, Rex, it's not always the fastest who win. Sometimes slow and steady does the trick." Rex hung his head, feeling embarrassed. He had been so sure of his victory that he had underestimated Toby's determination. But instead of sulking, Rex realized that Toby had taught him an important lesson. You're right, Toby, Rex said. I may be fast, but I was overconfident. You won because you never gave up, even when it seemed impossible. Toby nodded. Exactly. It's not about how quickly you start, but about staying focused and steady until you finish. From that day on, Rex no longer bragged about being the fastest animal in the forest. He learned to respect the abilities of others, no matter how different they might seem. And he and Toby became good friends, often racing each other, not to see who was the fastest, but to enjoy the journey together. And so, the famous race between the rabbit and the turtle became a story told to every animal in the forest. A reminder that success comes from patience, perseverance, and never underestimating those around you.